I want to talk about the most interesting current trends in education, both locally and globally. First one I want to talk about is the move from STEM to STEAM. Now, STEM back in 2001 was introduced to boost the sciences, the technology, engineering, and mathematics, and was a driver that governments were worried that the industries of the future relied on those skills and they couldn't see schools demonstrating enough options for students to learn that. So there's lots and lots of STEAM initiatives, not only to improve the number of students studying those subjects, but also to encourage females to actually get involved in those industries, which are very male dominated. So STEM became very popular in a short space of time with many schools. But over time, it evolved into STEAM, which was the addition of the arts. And the arts were brought in to bring creativity to the critical thinking skills. So over the last 2 years, maybe 3 years, there's been that move to STEAM, so STEM to STEAM. And the best way of describing why it's so important is by Dr. Kristin Cook, who says that it's the humanizing piece of transdisciplinary and interdisciplinary instruction. So bringing the humanity, bringing that creativity to the sciences, technologies, the engineering, and the maths. So both STEM and STEAM promote analytical skills. They teach students how to ask questions. It is generally taught, the skills and knowledge are taught as in traditional ways, but it also prioritises project-based and inquiry-based learning and focuses on solving real-life problems as well. So it's a very practical way of learning. Here in Italy, there's been many initiatives in STEM and STEAM. You can see on the screen there's Make a Scuola, which is a maker school. So creating technology opportunities to make things in the schools. Initiative around innovation, STEM in the city in Milan. That's been a feature for a few years now. Girls Code It Better, Microsoft's Pink Cloud, hackathons, and Coding for All. Most of those are STEM, but there's a kind of steaminess about them now. So basically the arts have been introduced to some of those STEM initiatives. And just to kind of give you an idea, if you're really interested in STEAM schools, the best ones that I've seen or read about are ACS International Schools in the UK, IB schools that also do STEAM. The International School of Kuala Lumpur is doing some interesting work at the moment. And the Nord Anglia School Group, which I used to work for, they have around 69 schools around the world. They have a collaboration with MIT where students and staff are trained in the latest STEAM thoughts and initiatives. So why is it such a good initiative? It raises the status of arts and sciences in school, and sometimes they've been left behind. And in the UK, for instance, a lot more of the less scientific subjects have been studied and encouraged to be studied by schools because it boosts their exam results. The harder sciences have been shied away from purely because they are harder to get higher grades and thus not looking as successful to the league tables that the UK is bound by. It's real life problem solving and promoting that. Because you include in the arts in it, a wider range of students are involved, and those complex concepts can be explained more simply through the arts. And finally, creativity and innovation are at the forefront, which is something that we need to face all the problems and solve all the problems of the 21st century. So STEM to STEAM, great initiative. Second thing I want to talk about is hybrid learning. And hybrid learning has been something that has rapidly evolved, sometimes confused with blended learning, but there is a difference which I'll come to in a minute. But basically, the aim is to combine face to face and online learning, taking the strongest parts of those to create the best approach to teaching. So there's a flexibility of delivery, but it also looks at the best ways to teach something more appropriately. So some students attend class in person, while others take the class remotely. Then that happens at the same time, and that's the difference between hybrid and blended learning. Is blended learning, either everyone's in class or everyone's online. With hybrid learning, you can have the same class, some are remote and some are actually in the classroom. Synchronous and asynchronous activities are combined to match the students' needs in the most appropriate way, and it blends the best of traditional classroom experiences, digital education platforms or learning management systems, and also experiential learning. So it's a hybrid, a mix of all those things together. The synchronous activities, so those are happening live. That's best for live group work, question and answer sessions, brainstorming, discussions where you want to encourage higher order thinking. And also when you want to start a course, it's always good to have people together in a synchronous way to create that environment of learning, to establish class expectations, those sorts of things. And asynchronous activities, those that don't happen live, are best for reflective activities, self-paced learning, when you want to look over materials time and time again to reinforce them, preparing for lessons by looking at content first, so the flipped content model. And also, more increasingly happening now, is taking some platforms like Sentry Tech or other artificial intelligence learning platforms and working through those individually, where they will actually mark the work for you and set you on different pathways as well. Hybrid learning has come to the fore because of COVID a lot, and particularly once schools are starting to reopen. So when classes are isolated or when parts of the class have had to stay at home and some stay at school, a hybrid learning model is put in place. And there's a variety of things there. The school I'm at the moment, we've had classes in bubbles who have had to go home because there's been a case of COVID. And once they've had a test, when the students have done the 10 days or the 14 days isolation, they have to take a test before they come back. And we assumed that that would mean that all the children were away and all the children would then come back when they could. But what's happened is that children have kind of slowly come back. So the first day back after isolation, we've maybe had 5 kids in the class. The next day, 7 kids. By the next day, maybe 14 kids. So what it means is that we've had to be very flexible with that. So we've had to basically have classes where there have been live classes, which have been kids at home, kids in the classroom, and then we've had to mix all the asynchronous work as well. Some other schools I've heard about have done alternate days where half the class stay at home and the other half stay at school, and then they swap the next day. So that there's social distancing within classrooms, but of course the classrooms are small, so they couldn't manage it any other way. So there's a range of reasons why hybrid learning has been used, but COVID is one of the big ones at the moment. For adult learners, hybrid learning is a great way of doing things because it allows adults to, with work and family and social commitments, to decide whether they do want to actually go and travel to a classroom or whether that week they need to kind of stay at home and work from home. And they can plan pathways to that work for them and their situation. So it's a great way of helping adult learners manage life as well as learning. The positives of it are that it's flexible and that you can use the best pedagogical experiences to support the learning experience. So you can look at what you want somebody to learn and think, okay, that's better online, or that's better served by an AI platform, or that's better served by actually being physically in the classroom. So you can have that really fine focus. And the negatives, school districts that have used hybrid learning have found that there are great differences in terms of access to IT, access to Wi-Fi, those sorts of things. So it's really highlighted the social inequality between schools in lots of places. I think I was that in Germany. I was reading the other day that they're going to put a massive, great investment into making sure that all communities can access Wi-Fi for free, and I think that will then allow all students to be able to access learning via online. And the second thing is workload issues. With a hybrid, is actually quite involves a lot more planning. And when you've got a class that's in the classroom and also online, it can feel like you're having two classes at once, which is not only stressful but also increases the workload as well. Mm. So that's the two most exciting trends that I'd like to share with you today. Thank you.